Aloha, my name is Kylie Flood. I'm the librarian here at Nanakuli Public Library. Start building behind me. For the past couple of years, minus COVID, our library has been putting on community-based genealogy programs where we bring in guest speakers from all over to talk about resources and skills that our community members can use to help find their family history. And this project really started in library school. Mitch, this is a long time coming. Me and Michiko Joseph is the administrator for the UH West Library, the James and Abigail Campbell Library. She and I are classmates from UH Manoa LIS, and this project started as a school assignment where we had to think of a program important to our service community, which was Moʻokūʻauhau at the time, and something that was important on many levels, and we had to write a big grant for it pretty much. So this is us doing our school project in real life, and every year we do it a little bit differently, we adjust it. Mitch, it's outgrown our small 50-person meeting space. We started off in this little red roofed building behind me, which fits about 50 people. It's super echoey, so that was bad. We outgrew our space. People didn't have room to take notes. If traffic was bad, people couldn't get to us, you know, all those things. So this is the second year that we're trying it Zoom webinar style. So Michiko Josephs is one of our co-hosts tonight. And really the West Oahu Library is our partner every year that we do this program. And I have to mahalo them every year. Our second co-host is Kavena Komeji. We are also classmates from LIS and she works at the same library. She is also one of our wonderful presenters that is going to be on the lineup pretty soon in the next coming months. We hope to do this once a month, and every month is going to be a different topic, a different guest speaker, and more information for you all. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. That's kind of my spiel. Did I miss anything, Mitch, Kavena? All good? Okay, all right. Well, I guess I didn't introduce, I'm a librarian here. I live in Nanakuli. My family's been here for a really long time. I guess I should start out with my Moʻokūʻauhau since we are starting tonight. My mother's side is from Nanakuli. We moved to the homestead when it first opened 90 years ago, actually, during COVID. And my dad is from Molokai. That's where his ohana is from. And I really enjoy my job and I really enjoy helping people. So I really hope you guys, whether you are beginning, whether you've hit a rock wall, or whether you are a super expert genealogist, that you are able to learn something from my presentation tonight. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, perfect. All right. So tonight we're gonna talk about getting started finding your family roots. And please bear with me. There are so many things that I need to pack into this very short amount of time. I'm not going to go over any of the resources in detail tonight. We really want to just point you in some directions that you can get started. And some of the upcoming presentations are actually going to go more in depth into some of the things I talk about tonight. So bear with me. So today's topics, we're going to talk about where do you start, places to start looking, search strategies and tips, how to keep track and organize your research, common genealogy mistakes, and food for thought before you're ready to start sharing what you found. Mahalo to our library tech who created this beautiful logo that we use every year for our flyers and stuff for this program. Okay, so before we talk about where do you start, I really want to give that disclaimer. Genealogy research can really be taxing on your emotions, your time, and your money. So emotions means I've watched so many families learn something new about their family that was something that was that hurt, or something that was a surprise, or all those things. So expect to find things out that you didn't know about. Prepare yourself emotionally. It takes a lot of time to do these types of things. It takes a lot of repetitive time. It takes time to park, to go to the repository sometimes, to wait in line, all those things. And it also costs money. So paying for copies of things, paying for gas to get to where you got to go to look for things, and paying to order things through the mail if you don't live in Honolulu. So those are all things that before you get started, I just want you guys to be aware of. So where do we start? We start with the oldest members of our ohana. So start with those people who are the oldest members of your family. Ask them for permission to interview them. Be okay if the answer is no, because sometimes our kupuna just want to know that you're serious about taking on this kuleana of researching your genealogy. They may want to know why you are doing your genealogy research, and those are all valid questions for them to ask. Be open with them. Make sure that if they do say yes, you prepare some questions ahead of time. Take lots and lots of notes or record your session with them. And make sure that when you're talking to them, you request a lot of specific details. So if Tutu says, oh, my sister had 3 kids, and you say, Tutu, what were her 3 kids' names? You know, what were their 3 kids' names? You know, were they all with Tutu's first husband, or was it with Tutu's second husband? Where was Tutu? Where were you born, Tutu? Like what place were you born in? What place were they born in? Those are the specific things that as you do your genealogy research, it really comes in handy to help narrow down your search. After you've talked to your kupuna, gather all existing documents. So start with yourself. Get your birth certificate if you don't already have one. Get a copy of yours. Ask your family if they have any documents that they're willing to share, give you a copy of, because those documents really help you when you're doing your research. And most importantly, cite where the documents come from. So if it comes from Department of Health, if it comes from your tutu, if it comes from your auntie, those are all important things later, because if the documents get lost or something happens to it, you may want to know where you can go get the copy again. And the right-hand side is just an example of some of the documents that you were looking for: birth, marriage, divorce, death certificates, naturalization records, immigration records, and newspaper clippings. Okay, places to start looking. This is just my screen of all the things we're about to talk about, but these are all places to start looking here in Hawaii. I encourage you that as you go through this class to think about what kind of communities and circles was your family involved in, because that can really help you find locations for family histories. And I'll explain that more later. So we have a Hawaii State Archives. They have a genealogy collection, and you have access to that genealogy collection. You can actually go to the state archives and have them make a copy of things. They have a digital collection now that you can take a look at. The vital records for their genealogy collection spans from 1832 to 1910, 1911 to 1929. So as you're looking at these resources to get started, it's really important that when you look at the websites that they may have, that you look at 1, what's the date range that's covered? And then 2, what's the rules for requesting items? 3, is there any way that you can prepare before you get there to do your request? Can you fill out forms beforehand? Can you access the record from home when you don't need to go? All those things save you a lot of time in the long run. Knowing when the years are for their collection also saves you time, because if Tutu was born in 1913 and you see here that that's a date that's not included, you don't have to look very hard, because the archives wouldn't say they don't have anything from 1913 if they don't. Please note that as time has gone on, our idea of records has changed. So the archive notes that marriage records before 1896 don't include the bride or groom's parents' names. It just has the name of the bride and the groom and where they got married and the date. And the birth records at the state archives is more statistical. So it's more about numbers than it is about names. You can access the index for a lot of the things at the state archive for genealogy on ulukau.org. And that's a slide we're going to have in a little while. But ulukau.org has the index. Now they have the link to the documents on the index for some of the marriage certificates, not for everything, but for the marriage certificates they do, and they're constantly adding things. So that also makes it really convenient. You can print it out right from home. If it's not linked to the document, you just write down the information on that index, and that's what you take with you to request to the state archives or email the state archives. You can also email them and ask them for a digital copy for them to send it. You may have to send them a slight fee for them to send you copies of things, but they do allow you to do requests via email, and that's on their website. The main website is the ags.hawaii.gov/archives. They also have a digital collection. So what I love about the digital collection is it'll search photos now too. On the right-hand side is like a little clip of a photo that I found in the state archives' photo collection. And I believe that the tutu on the left-hand side is actually my great-grandmother, who used to work at Ulukau village as a lahala weaver. So when you search their photo collection, don't just search names, search occupations, search things that your kupuna would be associated with, because sometimes they're in a picture for an event, or they're in a picture for a building, or for like the Ulukau village collection. That's where I found this photo from. Those are important things to remember when you're doing your searches at these places. As you can see, other records that they have at the state archives include ship passenger manifests, probates, wills, divorce cases, obituaries, naturalization records, and census records. Like I said, not going to go too in depth today. Ulukau.org, we just talked about this, is a wonderful resource. This is actually a screenshot of their genealogy collection. I really want to point out at the top right-hand corner of your screen, when you go to Ulukau, you can actually switch from English to Olelo Hawaiʻi and back again, using that little toggle on the top. And then this is just if you wanted to browse the indexes. And on the right-hand side, this is an example of a record of one of my ohana that was available on Ulukau. It's technically at the state archives, but they've scanned it and put it onto this index so that you can just download it and print it. Okay, Department of Health, the Vital Records Department. So in order to request documents from DOH, you have to know the name, the date, and location of the event. So that includes the location of the marriage, the location of the death. You need to know the names of the whole name of the person. You have to have proof of tangible interest to the record. So you need to say whether that's your grandparent, your spouse, your child, legal guardian, all those things. There are several ways you can request things from DOH, and their website has more information. So all these places that I'm showing you, you guys have to take the time to go to the website and read everything. But in general, you can make an in-person appointment, you can mail in a request, or you can do an online request. And the online request is a little different because you can only request records from 1909 to present. So if it's something a little bit older, but they have it, they won't let you do an online request for it. I'm not sure why. When you do go to DOH, be prepared with all that information. Have your copy of your ID, because you will need that identification either copied and mailed in, copied and uploaded if you're doing the online, or in person when you go to DOH. Okay, so another wonderful resource that everyone has access to is the Hawaii State Public Library system. So the library actually has a lot of cool resources, and I'm really not going to go into depth with this because we actually have in February another genealogy Moʻokūʻauhau presentation on Zoom, and that's going to be with Linda. She's the section head at the Hawaii State Library. Kavena is going to put the registration link in the chat right now. If you guys want to click on that and save it to register now, or register after this is done, click on that now. We'll put it in the chat one more time before we end. But the event is going to be on February 16th at 6 p.m. via Zoom webinar. So Linda's actually going to talk about all the services and resources available at the Hawaii State Library. But in general, this is a list of things that you can get to our library system that includes indexes to vital records, select census records, newspapers and newspaper indexes, directories, yearbooks, cemetery directories, land records, passenger manifests, books published on a specific ethnic group, like the history of Chinese and Hawaii, that kind of thing, published oral histories. All the holdings at the library are different, so you can go to our website, www.librarieshawaii.org, and you can search items. If it's something that can be borrowed, you can actually request for it to get sent to your particular library to pick up and take a look at. Alrighty. I hope you guys got a chance to look at that in the chat, but if not, we're going to do that again. With your Hawaii State Public Library card, you have access to Ancestry.com, the library edition. The only catch for Ancestry.com for the library edition is that you have to be using our library Wi-Fi or our library computers in order for you to gain access to Ancestry. And the way you do that is you'd come into the library, log on to our Wi-Fi, log on to our computers, go to our homepage, librarieshawaii.com, click on the research button, and there should be like a drop down. And that drop down should have online databases. You're going to click search by topic. And when you click on that search by topic, on the left-hand side, there's going to be a genealogy option. You're going to click on that and you're going to be able to access Ancestry when you're in the library. But if you're not in the library, you actually have access to Heritage Quest, and it should be on the same page. It's the same directions to get to both. Just Heritage Quest is available at home, and Ancestry is only available if you're using our Wi-Fi or using our state computers. I really want to point out something really important on the Ancestry.com access. When you log in, the top options of your page, and you can sort of see it here right at the top of the screenshot, it says charts and forms. These charts and forms are really helpful if you're doing your genealogy research to keep track of your research. And what I mean by keeping track is you want to keep track of what you've searched, where you've searched, and when you searched it, so that you're not doing double work. You're not going back to the same website and doing the same search that you've already done, those types of things. And you can download any of these charts or forms, and you can print them out and you can use them when you're doing your research. They even provide you with ancestral charts that you can fill out. The census forms tab here, it provides you with blank census forms that shows you what the different categories and questions are for each year's census. Okay, military records. The National Archives provides everyone access to certain military records, depending on the time period. I believe like if it's from the Civil War, you can actually request like even records of their pension, who their pension went to. They have some things available online with the AAD, and I think that's one of the links here is like a digital collection, but this is their main page. Like I said, I really encourage you to save this resource, and when you have time to really go through all the things that it says, because the very first link is how do you request service records online by mail or through fax, and that would be the first thing I click on. On the right-hand side, what's available online, those are all important things for you to take a look at before you start doing searches in this repository. Other places you can look is pretty much thinking about where was your family member in service, at what time period. So a really good example is if you have a family member that was in the 1399 Hawaii unit, they were the unit that didn't go to war. They stayed in Hawaii and they built a lot of things pretty much. And they are featured in the Go for Broke archives in California. But the right-hand side just lists a bunch of different places and websites. A lot of times if they're a famous battalion, there's usually a organization that has a website dedicated to just that particular battalion. Okay, newspapers. Newspapers are a wonderful way for us to learn more in depth if our ohana was in the newspaper. it's learning those stories about them that I really love about this type of research. Also, the obituaries in the newspaper can be super useful. If you're unsure of when your grandmother was born, you can look up her obituary, and usually the age is there, and then you can minus the age from the year that the article was published, and you can kind of get a rough estimate of what year she was born, and then use that to do your search. That's the value of newspapers. One great resource is Chronicalling America, and this is a database of newspapers across the country, across the continent, and Hawaii as well. However, they only include English language newspapers in this resource. The papers for Hawaii range from 1840 to 1812. I believe the very first issue is an 1840 issue of the Polynesian that was published in Hawaii. It's a really friendly search platform. When you search a phrase or a name, it gets highlighted in yellow on the newspaper page itself. It allows you to print clippings. It allows you to save it or print it as a PDF, a JPEG, or plain text. They're always adding new things. So even when I did the presentation yesterday, I checked to make sure that the years range for the newspapers for Hawaii were the same. And I think it wasn't the same for the end period. I had to change it. But yeah, Chronicling America is a wonderful resource, and it does not just Hawaii, but all across the continental US too. Okay, so newspapers specific to Hawaii that are in Olelo, Hawaii. Newpepa.org is a Hawaiian language newspaper database. The earliest paper scanned is from 1834. You can keyword search and you can browse, but there's not a fancy saving method that I know of. It's not like the Chronicling America where it'll let you like clip things and print them out. However, you can use your snipping tool on your laptop. I don't know what the equivalent is on MacBook, but I use my snipping tool all the time. Like Ulukau, this is actually like hosted by Ulukau as well. Like Ulukau, on the top corner, you can actually switch to English text if you guys need that. Okay, next resource, cemetery indexes. So information on the headstones of your family member can also be really important, especially if you're trying to do your DOH requests and you don't know the dates. Sometimes you can look up the headstone and get the dates from there. It's also really important because a lot of times family members are buried next to other family members. So dad will be buried next to his grandparents, things like that. So you want to do your research in a way that sometimes requires some footwork, like to actually go and look to see who are the graves around your kupuna, because that could be super important. There are some specific island copies of some cemetery indexes that are available at the library system. UH Manoa has the Hawaii Cemetery Index online for just Oahu. I don't know if they're going to expand to other islands, but I know that it just covers Oahu. Another useful index is the Find a Grave. I've had some luck with Find a Grave so far. And there's actually pictures of the headstones on Find the Grave sometime if you're really lucky. Let's see. I think that is it for this slide. So I encourage you to look at that cemetery index online for Oahu, to request print copies at your library for the other islands. Another thing I want to mention is that sometimes the index was published a while ago. So if your family has moved your kupuna from the original spot they were buried and moved them to a new cemetery, in the index, it'll still list them there. So if you find an index listing and then you go to the cemetery and they're not there anymore, it might be because your kupuna were moved. Okay, tips for searching and organizing. So in general, all these different databases are not perfect. And the people who recorded information were not perfect. Sometimes things are misspelled. Sometimes the person recording it spelled it wrong. Sometimes the person interpreting the document spells it wrong. Sometimes the OCR, the thing that picks up the text, spells it wrong. So you always want to search alternative spellings of names. So a really good example is the last name Smith. So you want to search the name with different spellings, but it all sounds the same when you say it, pretty much. When you do your search and it's super big, like thousands of things long, what you want to use is filters on all of those wonderful websites that let you pick the date or pick the location, or let you do a smaller date range, let you do 2 years before or 2 years after. It depends on all the different places that you're searching. But you want to really use those filters to narrow down your search, so you're not looking through thousands and thousands of documents that are not even on the right island, or not even during the right time period for your kupuna. If you're looking for a Rebecca Smith from 1842, but when you research Rebecca Smith, it comes out from 1842 to 2005. That's when it can be a really big problem with your research. So use those filters. Don't be ashamed. I do suggest that you don't use the filters at first and then slowly narrow it down so that you don't miss anything important. When you want to look for a complete phrase, like a first and a last name together, you want to use quotation marks. So for my name, you'd put quotation mark Kylie Flood and then ending quotation mark. The wildcard symbol is that special symbol on your keyboard that I never knew it was called a wildcard until I went to library school. What this does is it tells the search engine that any letter could be in place of this symbol. So give me all the results that have the letters I've typed with variations of where the wildcard is. So for example, you see the Smith with the 2 wildcards on this presentation slide. It will search all the variations of the spelling of Smith that we talked about in the first suggestion. Don't forget to search nicknames, maiden names, and legal names. My grandma was Japanese, great grandma was Japanese, and she went by Alice her whole life. And it wasn't until she died that we realized she never changed her name legally. So she's Alice in unofficial newspaper things, and she's Mitsue in all of her legal documents. So that's the kind of things that you want to be aware of. Do searches with and without middle names. Do searches with the full middle name and with the shortened middle name. Do searches with the middle name and the last name. Do searches if it's a woman, do it as Mrs. So-and-so, the name of her husband. So like I have an ancestor named Charles Cash. So his wife would be Mrs. Charles Cash, because way back when in the newspaper, people pretty much called wives by their husband's names with the Mrs. in front of it. Okay, getting organized. Now, while you're doing all this, there's some really important things I would like you guys to know, because I made these mistakes. Capitalize all the surnames when recording what you find. So that means if your ancestor's name is John first name, Smith last name, put Smith in capital letters. And this is super important because as we go down generations, sometimes it becomes unclear in whatever record, whether it's the first name or the last name, and it can get really confusing, especially if it's a name that the first name could be the last name or the last name could be the first name. You just want to get into that habit. Capitalize your surnames. With Hawaiian genealogy, there were no surnames for a while, so I totally get that. But when you start to get further in, you really want to capitalize those surnames. Use the maiden names for all the women in your family. This is important because if I'm Kylie Flood, I need my daughter Kylie Flood, and you're doing genealogy research 50 years from now, 60 years from now, as you're doing the research, you're going to get confused which Kylie Flood you're researching. So, you know, my maiden name is Kael. So when doing my genealogy research, you would call me Kylie Kael and call my daughter Kylie Flood. And that way things don't get as confusing. Always cite where you got your information from. I have done this so many times. I find a really cool document. I turn off the computer. I forgot to save it. And then I can't remember which repository I found it in or what search I used to find it. So it's super important. Cite where you got it. And then when you're transcribing and making copies of things that you can't save, like say you go to the archives, you can only make hand copy notes. Use one of those forms from the genealogy ancestry.com. And when you're transcribing, you want to make sure you transcribe it exactly how it is on the original document, even if things are misspelled. And lastly, use those charts to keep track of, like I said, where you looked, what you looked for, and when you last looked. So if you're doing a search for all those names, like how I told you, no middle name, middle initial, all those things, make a little note to yourself, like Ulukau, I searched Kylie Flood, I searched Kylie P Flood, I searched, you know, like all those things in a row so that you know you did all those searches. Include if you use the phrases or if you use the wild cards, all those things. It will save you a lot of time in the long run because you're not going to be running the same search over and over again. All right, we're almost to the end, guys. Storing and organizing your physical papers and your digital ones too. Some people like binders, some people like folders. It's really up to you. Just be aware that wherever you store those binders, wherever you store those folders, you really shouldn't put them against the wall that has plumbing. So if it's your closet you're putting in, but behind your closet is the bathroom, that's a really bad place to put any kind of important document, because if the pipe ever bursts, it's going to soak everything that's in your closet. So you want to pick a space in your house that is not near any kind of plumbing, and you want to pick a space that's not hot or not cold. So if your garage is a closed door garage and you live in Nanakuli, that's a really bad place to put your documents. They're not going to last. If you are from a colder environment, somewhere internally in the house where it won't get as cold would be good. Just think extreme heat and extreme cold are really bad for papers. It makes the paper expand and contract and can make the paper really brittle over time. And that's especially if you have like original documents that you're storing. If you're organizing like digital, like you're scanning everything and you just want everything digital, I suggest on the right hand side, you create file folders where the main folder is the family group name. And inside that folder, the subfolder is the individual names of the family, or the individual name of the wife and husband, and then their children into that folder, and so on and so forth. Another good suggestion is when you're naming files to use the following file, saving scheme: the 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day. So this is the year of the overthrow. So if I was saving something from the year of the overthrow, on the day of the overthrow, it'd be 1893-0117. And there's variations. You can put periods in between or dashes depending on your computer. And lastly, as you're gathering all this important information, you put a lot of hard work. Like I said, the emotional, the time, the money, you put all this work into your research, and you want to save that work for future generations. So please practice the 3-2-1 method from the National Archives and Records Administration. 3 copies, 2 copies in 2 different types of media, which means a digital copy and a physical copy is one example. And 1 copy not with you, not 1 copy offsite, in a safety deposit box, in a cousin's house, any of those things. But one that if there's a house fire, God forbid, or a flood or anything like that, all of your hard work does not go down the drain, and you have to do that all over again, spend all the time and money and everything all over again. Okay, perfect. We're moving along good, guys. All right, these common research mistakes. These are from a Gale course that's available through the library system. You can click on the Learn tab and go to Gale courses and find a genealogy, the same genealogy class that I took. These are the common research mistakes according to the teacher from our class. Not documenting your sources, relying on other family members. So not documenting your sources means you don't know where you got it from, so you don't know it later on if someone won't know if it's legit or not. Relying on other family member trees is like you found someone's tree on Ancestry and you're assuming that they did all their research right. That can be a super bad mistake that can lead you down paths unless you're confirming all the information that they have on their tree. Researching the wrong family, like researching, I'm just making up names, guys. Researching like a John Lake from Wisconsin when the John Lake you're supposed to research is from California. But they have the same name and you're assuming that it's the same person. And that's part of the jumping to conclusions, is you really want to make sure that the years and the dates and the names all match when you're confirming some of the things you find. Assuming name spellings, like how we talked about, search all those different variations and misspellings of the name, because you never know what was lost in translation, especially like in these census records. It wasn't your ancestor writing down their name. It was somebody recording it for them. Overlooking the maiden names. That's another one. Skipping a generation. Assuming a relation to a famous person. This was just part of the class, like assuming you're related to someone famous and failing to record information. So like I said, use those charts, use those record keepers, take notes while you're doing your research, and ignoring siblings. So a really good example of this is you couldn't find the name of a grandparent. You looked up your dad's information. It doesn't list the name of the grandparents. But you look up your dad's brother's information and it has the name of the grandparents. That's the kind of thing that when you're hitting those brick walls, sometimes try to look at the siblings to see if the siblings information, and if you know that's their full sibling, you can make the assumption that the parent system on theirs is the parent system on theirs, and you can confirm it with further research. Also, overlooking, this is my own one, overlooking where they lived and who they lived near. So the census record you see in the background, it has the street name. So when you look at census records from Hawaii, you can actually see who their neighbors were. And sometimes knowing who their neighbors were can help you figure out a different way to search for them. Okay, I'm gonna leave you guys with this before we start answering some questions. This is kind of just my food for thought. After you've done all this work, after you've found all this wonderful information, what do you need to think about as you think about sharing the information? And this is from the National Genealogical Society, their guidelines for sharing information. I highly suggest that you guys copy the link down and that you go and visit it and really go through it and read it for yourself. But pretty much, we want everybody to be aware that it is people's personal information you're looking up. It is their birthday and their name of their parents and their middle name, and possibly like even their social security number is on their world draft card from way back when. So especially if the person is still living. I'm not going to read these out to you guys. I feel like this is something you have to sit down and internalize. But I do want to caution you that I really suggest that when you're at that point where you're ready to share some of the things you learned, that you go through this and kind of look at it first. Let's see. Especially like sometimes there's information you find out that like is sensitive and can hurt people's feelings, can cause family to have hurt feelings as well. Like, I'm making this up. Finding out that your grandma, that you guys have all called your great grandma, was adopted, and she never ever told you she was adopted. So just being aware that that surprising information can also have an emotional impact on your family. That's one of the things that's listed on here as an example. So I really encourage you guys to take a look at that. But I really want to get to your guys' questions from tonight. So I'm going to say mahalo, and I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to put in that Q&A, anything that you might want to ask. If you put it in the chat, can you move it, copy paste it to the Q&A? Just because we have all the resources in the chat that I want people to be able to scroll back to and click on. Take a look at the Q&A now. Somebody asked if there's interlibrary loans between Hawaii State Public Library System and LA Public Library. Actually, try to ask your library to see if loans are available, and they'll probably contact our library. I don't know if you can do it the other way around, but actually, Carrie, that's a perfect question to ask Linda Sioshi, who's going to be our presenter next month in February. Nanakuli is a very small branch, and because we're so new, we don't have a lot of old things. So I often don't have to deal with that interlibrary loan situation. And it's usually someone here asking for something on the continent. So I'm unsure. I will try and ask her and see and make sure that she knows about that question when she does her presentation next month. Let's see. Is it safe to use SD cards or jump thumb drives? Oh, Kavena or Mitch, do you guys know what's safer? I mean, I put everything on like an external drive.
I haven't used a thumb drive for a long time. I've been saving everything into my Google Drive.
Yeah, cloud drives are the new thing now. However, I do know that certain archivists really frown upon them because if anything happens to the cloud, all your stuff is gone. So Candice, a good thing to think about is if you do save it on the thumb drive or the SD card, to save it on something else. Use that 3-2-1 method. So 2 different copies on 2 different mediums. So you can do one on the jump, do one on the SD, and maybe do one on your computer hard drive or on your Google cloud device. And that way you're following that rule. And in case one of those things fail, you have a backup. That's probably the best way to go about saving your research. How accurate is the family tree app? I am not sure. That's part of the reason why we caution everyone that if you're going to use someone else's family tree, that you really do your own research to back up what they're claiming. Like ancestry.com will have links to the original documents that the person used to find the information. So that's one good way. But I'm not sure about the accuracy of the family tree app. And I'm sure it depends on the family and who's inputting things. Okay. Besides interviewing people who are alive, where do you suggest to start? Oh, besides your kupuna, start with yourself. Start just with you. List who your parents are, what dates they were born, where they were born, what year did they get married, what year possibly if they passed away, what year was that, where, and work your way backwards. Do you have any experience or reflections on other collections of data like so the Mormon Church has their family search. Kavena, you've worked with the Family History Research Center before, yeah?
Yeah, and family search is actually a really good place to start if you have names, because they have a lot of documents that they've had volunteers type up, but it's all the same types of rules that Kylie's already mentioned about, trying variations of spelling. But once you get connected to one of your ancestors that has a record in their database, it'll automatically start populating for you if you use family search. But you have to make an account if you want that to happen. You can use it anonymously, but it won't connect everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Kavena. And there's also a family search center in Kapolei, not Kapolei, Makakilo. So they do open it up to the public. As far as I know, you just have to request to come over and they'll let you search whatever they have on hand. Hope that answers your question. Does the Hawaii State Library System allow ancestry and heritage quests to be accessed? Sorry. Does the Hawaii State Library System allow access to ancestry and heritage quests from home? The answer is heritage quests can be accessed from home, no problem. It's ancestry that the access is restricted. During COVID, there was a time when ancestry allowed us to have access from home, but that ended in December 2021, I believe, or January 2021. Unfortunately, access for everyone at home would be way too expensive for our state to pay for, because the access is according to the amount of devices and computers that we have in the system. And because we're one state system, that's 51 branches of computers and all those things. I really wish they could. However, you can access it like using our Wi-Fi. You don't have to use our library computers. But yeah, it is a little bit of a pain, but I also encourage you to visit your local library as well. Let's see, next question. When typing in a search bar, should I use Hawaiian diacritic marks or not at all, especially looking way back when? Kavena, correct me if I'm wrong, but they did not use diacritic marks way back when, so probably do it without, and then if nothing, do it with.
I would say do without. unless you're looking at like more contemporary, like after the 70s, 80s, then do without. I mean, when you're looking at 70s and 80s, then you can try it, add it in if you cannot find anything without it, but I would try it without first.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, last question so far. Would you know of some kind of resource for families who change their name with no type of legal document? We're finding that something wasn't their last name. It could have been something else, but we can only go so far. Oh, this is a tough one. And that's one of those roadblocks that people hit. And sometimes this roadblock can be solved by talking to our kupuna if they're available, if they're still with us. And if our kupuna says that so-and-so used to be married as a kealoha and later on when he had a second marriage, he became a makekau, like, to me, who am I to question that? Like, they knew their kupuna personally and they knew that that was their story, but there may be no documentation for that. And that's where citing your sources becomes super important, is you want to make that note that kupuna so-and-so said that this is the situation and this is why the name changed. And they were alive and present during that time. And that's also super reliable because not everything has palapala, not everything has documentation or records, especially for Hawaiian genealogy, older Hawaiian genealogy, especially like birth records. Birth records weren't like really a documented thing on paper until after the overthrow. It became super restricted and you had to have all the information. Lots of people got delayed birth records because they never had a birth certificate before the overthrow. Okay. Let's see. We're doing good, guys. Yes, you are right. So this person is also mentioning that some ancestors' births are documented through court testimonies, and this is very true. You can look at court testimonies and see if your ancestor had moved, because, for example, the sheriff is looking, and I'm making up names again, guys. The sheriff is looking for Mr. Kealoha. The judge has summoned him. The sheriff goes to Mrs. Kealoha's house. Mrs. Kealoha tells the sheriff that Mr. Kealoha has moved to Oahu from Big Island. The sheriff confirms that Mrs. Kealoha is pregnant with Mr. Kealoha's child. That's the kind of stuff that's in the court documents that's not going to be on paper. That's how you know what year your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was born, is from that court record of the sheriff going to try and serve Mr. Kealoha at his house. That's just one like vague example. Can online Libby be a source? Oh, I'm not sure that Libby has a lot of genealogy resources in terms of like Hawaii, but they may have like how-to genealogy books that have been published, or ancestry, how to use ancestry books or things of that nature on Libby, but nothing old that's not digitized for us to put up there. Would it be possible to send text file from the chat Q&A to us? Oh, so many valuable links. I will see if I can send out an email to everybody afterwards with the document with all the links on it. Someone asked if this is going to be recorded. It is being recorded. However, our plan was to put it up on our library YouTube, but that really depends on when I can get all the editing and captioning done. So while we wait for that, I'm going to see if I can just email everybody the document with all the links from the resources from tonight. Someone's asking if there's cost using Family Search, Ancestry.com and others. Ancestry.com does charge if you're not using our library computers and accessing through our library website. Family Search does not charge, correct, Kavena? You just have to make an account.
Yeah, it's free.
It's been a while since I've been on there. I'm not sure if someone is asking if some births were listed in manifest, and I'm not sure, unless maybe the baby was born on the ship and the exit manifest is different from the entrance manifest. Does that make sense? But that I'm not sure about. For my research, I haven't had to do passenger manifests too much, so but But that would be something I'd look out for, to look at the entry manifest and the exit manifest from the boat and see if they're different. Okay, let's see. You guys are so good at asking questions. I'm so glad I left so much time. The old court records for Hawaii, there's a copy of it at the Hawaii State Archives, a physical copy. I don't think there's a scanned copy. The library system doesn't have a copy. And I'm so sorry, I cannot remember the title of exactly what it's called. And I have it written down at my desk, which is far, far away from where I'm doing this presentation. Regarding adoption decree records, when can you access these records to determine birth parents? It depends. It depends on when the adoption took place. It depends on the agreement of the people who are giving away the keiki. Sometimes the adoption was listed in the newspaper as a public record. Sometimes it's a closed record. Sometimes the only person that can open the record is the person who was adopted. So if the person who was adopted passed away, I believe you have to contact a legal agency to help you unlock the records. I could be wrong. But I do know that it could be closed, it could be an open, and sometimes people find those adoption records in the older newspapers. And sometimes adoption wasn't on paper at all. That's also possible. Okay, let's see. When searching for family members of other countries is the question, what are some tips? The same tips for here. Think about where your family members were, where they were located. If you know, one good example is, you know, they lived in Okinawa. I do believe there is this place, a library in Okinawa that helps you do genealogy research. So think about where they lived, think about what they did, where they lived. All those things can help you in your research. Think about what they did as a profession too. Like, were they a lineman? Were they a carpenter? All those things. Were they in the military? And then if they were, is there a website for that military battalion or unit or branch of service? Bureau of Conveyances. Would it help connect the dots for family relationships? Possibly. Possibly, depending. Is it unusual that a family had sons with different last names? Ali, this question is the family, what ethnicity is the family? Is it a Hawaiian family? Is it a Chinese family? So that's something you also have to think about, is what are the cultural practices and cultural norms for your family members? So a really good example is on the continental US, there was a naming practice where the first son born was always named, and I don't remember the order of the name, was always named John, and the second son was always named Charles, and the third son was always named William. So when John has a son, his first son's name is John, his second son's name is Charles. It's kind of like that naming scheme is a tradition. And so it helps you to, if you know that cultural practice, you can tell which, if they're the oldest son or the youngest son or the middle son or whatever they might be for that family, because you already know that about who you're researching. I mean, Kavena and Mitch, another good example probably is like, sometimes Hawaiians will name their keiki after an event that happened when they were born, or they will attach part of a family member's name to their name, their keiki's name. And that's also another way that names become really important, and you can have different last names. Also adoption. Hanai is a thing. So, you know, Emma Navahi and Joseph Navahi actually adopted my great grandfather. So on their genealogy and their stuff, there's like a Charles Cash or Alexander. I can't remember if it's Charles or Alexander. There's like a Cash on there, last name Cash. And it was actually Emma's sister's child. So it wasn't a far, you know, distant relationship. It was actually their nephew, but they listed him as a son. So that's also possible. Someone's asking, did you say Nanakuli Library has events? You mean programming, Candice? I'm not sure. We do have monthly programming that's available. You can take a look at all the events that are happening at all the different libraries on our website. You can specify which library you're looking at and see what's going on. Let's see. Oh, more classes on genealogy. I see. So Nanakuli Library and West Oahu Library are hosting these events once a month until June, July-ish. We're hoping to schedule them on the third Thursday of the month, but we're still solidifying some of our speakers. So I can only confirm February's one for now, that we sent out the link for earlier. Oh, and Ali said she misses painting classes. I do miss those too. Okay. Let me see. Last couple of questions. Okay. When a male married twice, children were listed under both wives. How do we decipher which is the correct mother? Look at the birth dates. So if you know when the person got divorced and the child was born after the divorce date, it's more likely you can figure out which wife the child came from. It's the kind of detective work that happens a lot, is that you have to look at the years and you have to look at not just when they were married, but assuming when they got divorced as well. That could be helpful. Also, maybe looking at the different siblings and seeing if there's a different listing for different documents for different siblings. What do you do if sources weren't cited before technology? Leimomi, try and check, also check the back of the documents, because like if they're super old school, like my tutu, she always made notes on the backs of stuff. So take a look at the back of the documents, or just as important as the front sometimes. I'm trying to brainstorm it. I guess it really depends on the document too. Like if it's a government issued document, then you probably could find a copy of it and look at the two copies to confirm they're correct. And then you could update the source and say this is available at the Hawaii State Archives. Asking us where there's no dates on the resource I found. This is from my Davis line, which may be related. Yeah, the Davises, I think actually are related on my other side, on my Ka'eo side, not the cash side. She's asking if there's no dates on the resources, what do we do? Where you're getting the resources from, is it like a family thing or is it like a repository? Because a lot of times the repository will have the date for the item, even though it may not be on the item, if they know the date. So there's someone looking for ancestors that may have been indentured on the continent to search manifests and town records, often just listed as merchandise on manifests, but town records are more likely to have their names. That's true. Indentured to check cemeteries. Cemeteries are always a good place to look. Some people actually figure out where their kupuna are from and they walk the nearby cemeteries to see if they can find a grave or a headstone, because not all of the graves and headstones are listed on like Find the Grave or in the indexes. Someone's asking their father's not listed on their birth certificate. And how do you deal with trying to fix birth certificates if one parent is listed in order to do genealogy? I've been getting run around from the Department of Health. I actually think the Department of Health is the only person that you can deal with. And I suggest if you're doing this genealogy for the department, for DHHL, that maybe you contact Native Hawaiian Legal Corp and see if there's something that they can help you with in terms of dealing with DHHL and trying to prove your ancestry. That's always my number one suggestion for people that are dealing with DHHL and hit these super big roadblocks that don't have, that may need a legal solution, especially if DOH is not letting you fix the birth record. And I don't have any good advice other than to contact them. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Okay, guys, last question. Anyone out on the practice of Hanai when it comes to documenting genealogy? Oh, Kavana and Mitch, do you guys have any good suggestions for Hanai practices, like how they document that? I mean, I would just think to say Hanai and put
I think
both.
one of my uncles did our genealogy, and he did two. He did the Hanai and he did the biological. So
Yeah, that's what I would think is you would state that they're Hanai and also list their physical birth parents, but respecting that they had a different set of parents that raised them, you know?
I believe he treated our Hanai as our primary because that's how they were raised. And he did the biological one next. Like he's doing the biological one now.
Yeah, I guess it's really up to the individual doing the research. Main thing is say that they're Hanai, you know, like just think if you pass away before you can tell everybody how to go about looking at your research and paying attention and not paying attention, but how to go about reading your research, like how to go about where you found things. Think that you're not around 50 years from now, 80 years from now, and think that if someone brand new sets eyes on these documents, will they be able to understand what's going on? That's what I would suggest. That'd be like me looking at someone else's research and being like, I don't know what all these abbreviations like TLO or the, you know, like what all these abbreviations mean. So I can't interpret any of this genealogy stuff. I got to go do the work all over again. And that's what we really want to avoid, having to do the work all over again. All right, you guys had some wonderful questions. I am only hesitant to answer questions if I don't know the right answer. Us as librarians, we can point you in the right direction and we can give you suggestions on how to go about doing your research, but that legwork is really up to you guys. And I am hoping that everyone tonight, even if you're an expert genealogist, you hit a roadblock, you're just beginning, that you all learned something from this presentation. Kavena, can I have you put in the chat the registration for next month's class one more time? Perfect. Okay. So Kavena just put the registration for next month's webinar. I really encourage you guys to sign up. You guys will meet Linda. She is the head of the Hawaiian Pacific collection at the Hawaii State Library, and they are one of the oldest library branches. So they have all the cool stuff over there. We're a brand new branch, so we can only really buy things that are brand new. Or that get donated to us. So our collection is not as well developed as theirs is. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Thank you to Mitch and Kavena. They really make everything go smoothly by helping me with the chat and the Q&A. I really appreciate their kokua. Every time we do this, I'm so glad. Part of me is glad that we've outgrown our 50 space meeting room and that now these classes and programs are available to everybody statewide and everybody, whether they can make it to a public library or not. So with that, I'm gonna encourage you to click on that link, sign up for the class next time. The flyers and all those social media postings will be going out eventually for people to sign up for the class, but you guys got the advantage tonight getting the link early, because I think we're gonna launch that in a week or two. So thank you everyone for coming. Mahalo nui. I'll see hopefully some of you guys next time, where Linda will be presenting in Iowa and Mitch and Kavana, or a combination of us, will be doing all of the tech chat stuff. Okay. All right. Ahui ho, everyone.